Good morning. I'd like to call the meeting to order with the opening prayer and the Lord's and the Pledge of Allegiance. And join us if you would. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread. Forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. Lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, power, glory forever. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Need a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Got a motion, do we have a second? Got a motion and a second. Any discussion? Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say nay. Chair votes aye. Ms. Hurley.
Mr. President, I believe Mr. Taylor is first on the agenda this morning with a public hearing.
Okay. Mr. Taylor.
Yes, sir. Morning. This
Morning.
is a public hearing on legislative bill number 2020-05, an act to amend Chapter 29 of the Wicomico County Code, Article 2, titled Grant Funds, Sections 29-18 through 29-21, and to add Sections 29-22, 29-23, and 29-24 to provide greater transparency and full accountability of the county's allocation of grant funds. I do have one suggested amendment to that, and I can tell you now or after the public hearing, either one. It's not very significant.
Yeah, let's wait till after the public hearing. Right now, we're going to open the floor for the public hearing. If there's any comments, please go to the podium, state your name and county of residence.
John Pasota, Acting Director of Administration. I wanted to introduce Pam Olin, the Acting Finance Director, to speak on behalf of this particular legislation. Ms. Olin.
Good morning.
Good morning.
One section I have concern with in this proposed legislation is the section on grant applications and proposals. It is section 29-20. It talks about in section B that at the request of council, or at the request of the county executive, the council may approve an application or written response, and then it will deem that stuff appropriated to be used. My concern with that language is if we are appropriating before the grant has ever been approved by who we are submitting to, this is at the proposal level, we could be amending our budget without ever actually getting awarded a grant. If this language was written in such a way that we would keep the council informed of grants that have been submitted, then it wouldn't be amending the budget until the grant has been awarded to the county. So if we submit something to the state, federal government, or whoever is the granting authority, and the council goes ahead based on that application and approves the grant and approves amending the budget, and then we don't get it, we've now amended a budget without any grant being awarded. So that is my concern with this section of the legislation.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any more public comments? Any more public comments?
You better clarify what the public comments
Is,
for.
is this on the legislative bill, or are you thinking this? Now, this is not the spot where we do public comments for everything. This is on this bill only. Sorry about that. Are there any more public comments on legislative bill 2020-06? Okay, with that said, need a motion to approve legislative bill number 2020-05.
Mr. Dodd?
Yes,
Yeah,
sir.
I did have, actually, it's two suggestions for amendments, and one of them addresses the comment that was just made.
Yes, sir.
And that is in that same section that was referred to, which is 29-20 subpart B, where it speaks to appropriation of the grant revenue.
Yes.
I would suggest adding the words after grant revenue, comma, effective upon receipt thereof, comma. So then that covers the waterfront if the grant for some reason is not approved or for whatever reason the revenue doesn't come in. For example, if the Board of Public Works would exercise their power to stop it. And that would cover, I think, the concern that was expressed. The same concern exists, I don't think it's as significant, but it exists in terms of what I'm going to call normal grants, not ones that would be subject to B, which are somewhat like the grant that we're going to consider a little bit later today, something that just kind of pops up after the budget, but for things that are done in the normal course. And this would be in section 29-19 subpart C, where again it says, revenue shall be deemed to be appropriated. It's in the third line. Shall deem to be appropriated for the specific purposes of the grant. And I would suggest adding again, after the deemed to be appropriated, comma, effective upon the receipt thereof, comma, to cover that same issue. Now, there is one other more general suggestion that I have, and we've found out in the past several months that we're getting or can get some pretty substantial grants that are based on what I call reimbursement grants. In other words, we have to spend the money first for the purpose of the grant to get the grant funds to essentially reimburse the county for spending the money in the first place. And, you know, it may seem a little odd, but that's the way they do it. That was true of a grant that we approved at the last meeting. It's going to be the case of the one I think we're going to approve this morning. So I would suggest adding a new subpart in 2919, and it would be subpart E, and it would read as follows. E, if the grant is for reimbursement for other funds expended for the purpose of the grant revenue shall be applied to restore any appropriation or borrowing of other county funds expended in order to obtain the reimbursement, and to discharge county debt for any funds it has borrowed for such expenditure. The latter part is kind of probably not going to happen, because normally we have enough money to do interfund borrowing like we approved at the last meeting, for the grant that we approved at the last meeting. So we don't need to go out and borrow money from a bank or some other third party. But that's possible, and some counties and cities do that. It happens. So it covers the waterfront, and it would add that new section E that I just read, and what is now section E would become F, and that would read, council may waive any provisions of this section. That's already in the legislation. So those are the suggestions I'd make, and I would suggest that you amend the budget, the bill accordingly.
So,
Mr. Holloway?
do you think that we need to table this until this is redrawn, or try to do all these amendments?
I think they can all be done. They're all pretty straightforward. I mean, I've read off specifically where they go. So that is, you know, is stated essentially line by line.
Mr. Cannon?
Mr. President, this is a public hearing on this legislative bill. Nothing would prevent the council from voting on this legislative bill at our next session. It doesn't have to be voted on today. So I would say with Ms. Olin's recommendations and Mr. Taylor's, we revamp this legislative bill. My only concern, Mrs. Hurley, is in revamping the legislative bill after having heard the public hearing, could there be something that we might be changing that the public might then want to speak on again?
We can certainly schedule it for another public hearing if that's what you want. we would have time to do that, I believe, for the September 1st meeting. We
I
do
guess
have
it really depends on how extensive, and
Yeah,
actually,
Yeah, I don't think we need to schedule another public hearing. I think if we simply.
yeah, I think you're right, Bill.
If we simply make, I mean, it's just making the amendments. I guess, and we have, as Olin here today, I mean, are you comfortable with those amendments? I don't want to put you on the spot.
Ms. Owen, can you go to the podium, please?
What I was getting at, though, Mr. President, is that, again, the council doesn't have to bring this up for a vote today. We could do it in 2 weeks, and that way we could incorporate what Solon had to say and what Mr. Taylor had to say.
The, off the top of my head, the additional language to be added after the word appropriation appears to be appropriate. Sorry, using appropriation and appropriate, sorry. The second change in regarding to making the section E, I would honestly want to see it in writing to make sure I believe. Thank you. Of course, now I have to have the glasses on to actually see what it says. I believe that should be fine. It's basically stating that if most grants that I have worked on since I've been with the county are reimbursement form. POS is a reimbursement form, which is the Project Open Space. We rarely, if ever, that I can think of, actually borrow money to be able to do reimbursement style grants. The county has sufficient liquidity to be able to cover the cost of those items. But this is protecting that if we have to borrow, we put the money back to pay that borrowing. I would defer to either side. I would like to see it actually in the legislation, would be kind of my thought, and it doesn't, I don't believe it changes it enough to require another public hearing on the subject, but then it would allow everybody to see the language inserted in the right spot.
All right. Mr. Holloway, do you have a statement?
No, I just think we ought to hold off on it
Mr. Hastings?
until the wording is correct. So,
Yeah, there's two pieces in here, I think, extra that I'm glad Ms. Olin brought up that piece there. But two things that were on. One's a simple one. So 29-19. This is just a simple taking out the pronoun. The very last line, 29-19A. The very last line, the county executive shall also provide his written recommendation. I should probably say provide its written recommendation or something that's not a he. And then the only other question that I had on here that wasn't already addressed was in 29-22. The council members and the council staff shall may directly but informally discuss any aspect of the grant with any personnel in the executive branch, either before or anticipated. Is this just with any personnel in the grant, the executive branch, either before or anticipated? So would this conflict with any? Would there be any conflict with the previous county executive had a stated rule of no communication with staff or without an express permission from the council or from the county administrator? I don't know if we. Does this give us new ability, or in this case, to then discuss grants with staff, where we previously, at least for the last 2 years, have been barred as council members from discussing anything with any.
Mr. Taylor?
Yeah, I think you're referring to the provision in the charter about non-interference with the executive branch. Yeah, that's why this reads informally discuss. That talks about formal discussion or directing somebody in the executive branch to do something. This is just general discussion. And it is really to get around the complete bar. You can't talk to anybody, even if you run into them in the hall and want to ask, how's that grant coming along? under the edict that you refer to that I think is no longer in effect, thankfully. That's why that's in there, to make it clear that you can do that.
Thank you, Mr. President.
If I could continue on the
Yes, Mr. Taylor.
on the language that I've proposed, we still need, if you're going to put it in, to amend it. Now, yes, if you're going to table this to the next meeting, it could be done then, but I just point out that it's not in there until it's amended.
Okay, there was some discussion to table it. Does anyone want to table this?
I don't think there's any rush on it, so personally, I'd be okay with us.
Mr. Cannon?
Well, it seems to me that the council's in agreement on the proposed amendments. Let the amendments be made, and then we can have it come back at the next meeting as the formal vote. I don't think there's any need to bring it up for a vote today, amend it, and then table it. I would say let's just instruct Mr. Taylor to make the changes and as he has suggested and Ms. Solon has suggested, and then bring it back to us at our next meeting for a vote.
Okay.
Does
Does
that,
everybody agree with that?
does that satisfy the amendment? I guess I'm kind of looking at Laura on this, or do we?
Yeah, I'm confident with Ms. Hurley, is that
Yeah.
procedurally? is that
Parliamentarian.
So ideally, the bill would come back, unless the amendments are made formally, there's a motion, there's a second, the bill would come back to the council table as drafted today. You need the motion to formally amend it, and then it would come back to the table with showing those amendments.
Do we need the motion today?
You do, if you want to.
Would somebody like to make that a motion?
May I,
Well,
may we, the other option is you table it as it stands. You have it in writing to be able to see what those formal amendments are. And if I'm right, I believe you can then make the motion at the next meeting to make the amendments and then approve the total bill as amended.
As long as everyone understands that the bill in the brief book would not show the amendments.
Correct, but we would be able to have in front of us the
Yeah,
written
sure.
amendments to be able to see.
Yes.
Is everyone okay with that?
I'm okay.
Okay. Do we need a motion to table it, or just let it go with that?
sounds,
I think you do need a motion to table.
Yes, sir. Ms.
It would be a
Hastings.
motion actually to postpone.
Okay.
I'll motion to postpone until the.
Got a motion to
upcoming meeting.
postpone it until the next meeting.
I think we have
Got a
to.
motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Chair votes aye.
Thank you.
Ms. Hurley?
Sorry.
So next on the agenda is a public hearing on resolution number 64-2020. This is to amend the Wicomico County Solid Waste Management Plan to adopt an office building recycling plan. And council did have a work session on this request on July the 21st. A public notice was published in the Daily Times and posted on the county's website stating that a public hearing would be held this morning at 10 a.m. And we do have Mr. Mark Whitelock here, Deputy Director of Public Works, if there are any questions.
Okay, we're going to open the floor to public comments. If you have any comments, please go to the podium, state your name and your county of residence. This is on the resolution. We're not to public comments on this resolution only. I'll let you know. Do we have any public comments on this resolution? All right, this time we're going to close the floor. Need a motion to approve resolution number 64-2020.
So moved.
Got a motion, who is second?
Second.
Got a motion and a second, any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Chair votes aye. The resolution number 64-2020 passes unanimously.
Okay, next, the acting county executive has submitted a new appointment and 4 reappointments to the Wicomico County School Building Commission for council's consideration. The School Building Commission makes recommendations to the Wicomico County Board of Education, the County Council, and the County Executive on the planning, design, and building construction, rehabilitation, and maintenance projects in the county school system, as well as reviews building designs, specifications, and contracts prepared by the architects, engineers, and/or contractors. Starting with resolution number 65-2020 is confirming the reappointment of James R. Thomas Jr., P.E., as a member of the Wicomico County School Building Commission.
Okay, need a motion to approve resolution number 65-2020.
So moved.
Got a motion and a second, any discussion? All in favor of resolution number 65-2020, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Chair votes aye. Resolution passes unanimously. Ms. Hurley.
Next is Resolution Number 66-2020, confirming the reappointment of Amanda H. Pollock, P.E., as a member of the Wicomico County School Building Commission.
Right, need a motion to approve resolution number 66-2020.
So moved.
Got a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor of resolution number 66-2020, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Chair votes aye. Resolution passes unanimously. Ms. Hurley.
Next is Resolution Number 67-2020, confirming the reappointment of Bruce W. Patterson as a member of the Wicomico County School Building Commission.
Need a motion to approve resolution number 67-2020.
So moved.
Got a motion, need a second. Got a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor of resolution number 67-2020, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Chair votes aye. Resolution number 67-2020 passes unanimously.
Next is Resolution Number 68-2020, confirming the reappointment of Keith P. Fisher as a member of the Wicomico County School Building Commission.
All right, need a motion to approve resolution number 68-2020.
So moved.
Got a motion, need a second.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Chair votes aye. Resolution number 68-2020 passes unanimously.
Next is Resolution Number 69-2020. This is confirming the appointment of Jana Beth Potvin as a member of the Wicomico County School Building Commission.
Need a motion to approve resolution number 69-2020.
So moved.
Got a motion, need a second.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Chair votes aye. Resolution number 69-2020 passes unanimously.
Next, the county executive, or the acting county executive, has submitted a new appointment to the Wicomico County Board of Library Trustees. The Board of Library Trustees manages and oversees the library for the good and welfare of the citizens of Wicomico County. This is Resolution Number 70-2020, confirming the appointment of John T. Cannon to the Wicomico County Board of Library Trustees.
Need a motion to approve resolution number 70-2020.
So moved.
Got a motion, need a second.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor of resolution number 70-2020, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Chair votes aye. Resolution number 70-2020 passes unanimously.
Next, the acting county executive has submitted a new appointment to the Wicomico County Planning and Zoning Commission. This commission is an advisory commission on planning, zoning, and developmental issues, including rezoning, subdivision, and site plan review. Resolution number 72-2020 is confirming the appointment of Joe Holloway to the Wicomico County Planning and Zoning Commission.
Need a motion to approve resolution number 72-2020. Got a motion, need a second.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor of resolution number 72-2020, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Chair votes aye. Resolution number 72-2020 passes unanimously.
Next, the acting county executive has submitted a reappointment and a new appointment to the Wicomico County Tourism and Civic Center Commission. This commission serves in an advisory capacity to the Director of the Department of Recreation, Parks, and Tourism. It reviews and makes recommendations on matters concerning the comprehensive planning, policy interpretation, budgets, operations, capital improvement, as they relate to fulfilling the department's and the Civic Center's respective vision and mission. Resolution number 73-2020 is confirming the reappointment of Laura Soper to the Wicomico County Tourism and Civic Center Commission.
Right, need a motion to approve resolution number 73-2020.
So moved.
Got a motion, need a second.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor of resolution number 73-2020, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Chair votes aye. Resolution number 73-2020 passes unanimously.
Next is Resolution number 74-2020, confirming the appointment of David J. Ryan to the Wicomico County Tourism and Civic Center Commission.
Need a motion to approve resolution number 74-2020.
So
So
moved.
moved.
Got a motion, we have a second.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor of resolution number 74-2020, please say aye.
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 Any opposed, say nay. The chair votes aye. Resolution number 74-2020 passes unanimously.
Next, the acting county executive has submitted 3 new appointments to the Wicomico County Recreation and Parks Commission for council's consideration. The commission acts in an advisory capacity to the Director of Recreation, Parks, and Tourism on all matters concerning the comprehensive planning, policy interpretation, budgeting, operation, maintenance, capital improvements, as well as the formulation of plans and policies for public recreation, the establishment of recreation programs, and the creation of recreation policies. Starting with resolution number 75-2020, is confirming the appointment of Erin Smith to the Wicomico County Recreation and Parks Commission.
All right, need a motion to approve resolution number 75-2020.
So moved.
Got a motion, do we have a second?
Second.
Got a motion and a second, any discussion? All those in favor of resolution number 75-2020, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Chair votes aye. Resolution number 75-2020 passes unanimously.
Next is resolution number 76-2020, confirming the appointment of Deena C. Cook to the Wicomico County Recreation and Parks Commission.
Need a motion to approve resolution number 76-2020.
So moved.
Got a motion, do we have a second?
Second.
Got a motion and a second. All those in favor of resolution number 76-2020, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Chair votes aye. Resolution number 76-2020 passes unanimously.
Next is resolution number 77-2020, confirming the appointment of Sandra S. Fitzgerald Angello B.S. to the Wicomico County Recreation and Parks Commission.
Need a motion to approve resolution number 77-2020.
So moved.
Got a motion, we have a second.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor of resolution number 77-2020, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Chair votes aye. Resolution number 77-2020 passes unanimously.
Next is the acting county executive has submitted reappointments and 2 new appointments to the Wicomico County Airport Commission. This commission acts in advisory capacity. They review and make recommendations to the airport manager and the county executive with respect to all matters of the airport. Resolution number 78-2020 is confirming the reappointment of Calvin D. Peacock as chairman of the Wicomico County Airport Commission.
Need a motion to approve resolution number 78-2020.
So moved.
So moved.
Got a motion, we have a second. Ms.
Second.
Ackley, were you the second?
Mhm.
Got a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor of resolution number 78-2020, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Chair votes aye. Resolution number 78-2020 passes unanimously.
Next is resolution number 79-2020, confirming the reappointment of Matthew E. Creamer as vice chairman of the Wicomico County Airport Commission.
Need a motion to approve resolution number 79-2020.
So moved.
Got a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Mr. Hastings was the second. Any discussion? All in favor of resolution number 79-2020, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Chair votes aye. Resolution number 79-2020 passes unanimously.
Next is resolution number 80-2020, confirming the reappointment of Gerard J. DiCairano as a member of the Wicomico County Airport Commission.
I'm glad you pronounced that. Need a motion to approve resolution number 80-2020 in a second.
So moved.
Got a motion. We have a second.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor of resolution number 80-2020, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Chair votes aye. Resolution number 80-2020 passes unanimously.
Next is resolution number 81-2020, confirming the reappointment of Nola B. Arnold as a member of the Wicomico County Airport Commission.
Need a motion to approve resolution number 81-2020.
So moved.
Got a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor of resolution number 81-2020, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Chair votes aye. Resolution number 81-2020 passes unanimously.
Next is resolution number 82-2020, confirming the appointment of R. Wayne Strausburg as a member of the Wicomico County Airport Commission.
Need a motion to approve resolution number 82-2020.
So moved.
Got a motion, do we have a second? Got a motion and a second, any discussion? All those in favor of resolution number 82-2020, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Chair votes aye. Resolution number 82-2020 passes unanimously.
Next is resolution number 83-2020, confirming the appointment of David J. Ryan as an ex-officio member of the Wicomico County Airport Commission.
Need a motion to approve resolution number 83-2020 and a second.
So moved.
Got a motion, do we have a second? Got a motion and a second, any discussion? All in favor of resolution number 83-2020, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Chair votes aye. Resolution number 83-2020 passes unanimously.
Next for your consideration is resolution number 84-2020. This is authorizing Absolute Security Group as a sole source vendor to provide proprietary repair parts and service on the existing KeyScan Aurora access control system for the Circuit Court building in the fiscal year 2021. This resolution does require a supermajority vote in order for it to pass. And we have Ms. Melissa M. Beatty here, Circuit Court Administrator, and Mr. Nick Rice, Purchasing Manager, if there are any questions.
All right, need a motion to approve resolution number 84-2020.
So moved.
Got a motion, do we have a second? Second. Got a motion and a second, any discussion? Any discussion? No discussion, all those in favor of resolution number 84-2020, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Chair votes aye. Resolution number 84-2020 passes unanimously.
The next item for business is resolution number 85-2020. This is declaring the official intent of the county to reimburse expenditure paid with respect to the airport water main extension project from proceeds of tax-exempt obligations. And we do have Mr. John Pasota here, Acting County Executive, and Mr. Pete Bozick with George Miles and Bureau, if there are any questions.
Okay, and Mr. Rudy's in the audience too. Need a motion to approve resolution number 85-2020.
So moved.
Got a motion, do we have a second?
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Any discussion? Any discussion? All those in favor of resolution number 85-2020, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Chair votes aye. Resolution number 85-2020 passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next is resolution number 87-2020. This is approving a grant award from the Federal Aviation Administration Airport Improvement Program, AIP, to rehabilitate a taxiway at the Salisbury Ocean City Wicomico Regional Airport. There is an updated resolution on the council table for council's consideration today.
Okay. Need a motion to approve resolution number 87-2020.
So moved.
Got a motion, do we have a second?
Second.
Got a motion and a second, Mr. Holloway. Any discussion? Do you have any discussion? All right, all those in favor of resolution number 87-2020, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. All right, chair votes aye. Resolution number 87-2020 passes unanimously.
Mr. President, that is all I have.
Okay, Mr. Hitchens. If you would, state your name and your position and...
Good morning.
Good morning.
Levin Hitchens, Internal Auditor. I call your attention to resolution number 86-2020 to approve a hotline services agreement between Lighthouse Services LLC and Wicomico County.
Okay. Need a motion to approve resolution number 86-2020.
So moved.
Mr. Hastings with the motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Got a second by Mr. McCain. Any discussion?
If you want me to, I can give you a quick briefing.
Please do.
So this year, our current hotline Navex stopped using the product that we were subscribed to. So I went and got 3 quotes from different hotline providers. Lighthouse was the lowest at $785. However, they still have all the features that we need, including more. There's going to be additional reporting options besides calling in. We can, people can also go on the website. They can text. they can email Lighthouse, all anonymous. There's going to be printable outreach materials that are available to us. We did budget for that, so those will be distributed to the departments once the hotline's up and running. As of right now, when I got the quotes, they had a quick turnaround time for setting them up. I'm not sure if that's going to be delayed with COVID, but I wouldn't anticipate it to be more than a couple of weeks. If council approves this resolution, I'll work with management to put together dissemination teams. There will be 3 different teams, one for fraud, one for human resources, and another one for compliance and ethics. And that's all I have.
That's all you have. Any questions? Mr. Cannon?
The only question I have, not really relevant to the resolution, but you were talking about the 3 different teams you were going to put together.
Yes, sir.
Is that something that's going to need to come before the council as far as approving those groups, or is that going to be an initiative on the part of the auditor?
No, that's not, I don't believe it's something that comes before the council. They've been altered before, like when I was added to our current dissemination team.
Okay.
I don't believe that was brought before council.
Okay. I'm glad to see we're reactivating this and getting it back
Yeah.
to the employees.
With the biggest concern that I've heard was, is this anonymous?
And it is. I mean, because Lighthouse is a third party, so I took a tour of their system. You can go on the website, it doesn't track your IP address, and you don't have to put an email address to reply to. You don't have to put your name. Doing that makes it so they can't respond back to you and follow up. However, you do absolutely have the option to not give them any information about yourself at all. And being email, I mean, you could create a one-off email address to email them. You also can mail them, which of course you wouldn't have to give them any information at all, not even a return address. You can fax them on top of that. So there's lots of ways to report to them and keep it completely anonymous.
Did you plan on educating the employees?
Yeah, there are materials that are available to us. I believe a lot of them can be printed out, so we're not paying some kind of printing fee. But we did budget for that, and I will take those around to each department. Not sure if it's going to be like a speech type of scenario, or just going and making sure everyone gets the information, as well as send out emails to county emails.
Okay.
The number and information will be available on our website, and it also gets printed on pay stubs.
Do all county employees have an email address?
I don't believe so, but that will be obviously part of the physical reach out.
Okay, because that's another concern, is if you do emails, some of the employees wouldn't get the emails, so.
If we feel it's necessary, I could work with HR to actually send them information through U.S. mail, depending on how broad we want to do it.
Okay. Any more discussion? Mr.
I
Holloway?
just saw where they charge $75 extra for a report in languages other than English or Spanish. I don't suppose that'll apply to us a lot, but I just thought I picked that up.
Yeah, I mean, I assume English and Spanish will be sufficient. I guess if we get a request for any other languages, we'll have
That's
to cross
fine.
that bridge.
I just thought I'd bring that up.
Yeah.
It was interesting.
Any more discussion? All right, no more discussion. All those in favor of resolution number 86-2020, please say aye. Any opposed, say nay. Chair votes aye. Resolution number 86-2020 passes unanimously.
Thank you, that's all I have.
Thank you, Levin. Mr. Taylor, you're up.
Yeah, thank you. We have 4 bills for introduction this morning. The first is Bill number 2020-07, an act to establish regulations regarding service by someone in a position for which both appointment by the county executive and confirmation by the county council is required, including sanctions for serving in such a position without such confirmation and for aiding and abetting such conduct by amending the Wicomico County Code to include in Chapter 59 Personnel Rules and Article 3, title Positions for which confirmation by council is required, and Sections 59-16 to 59-19. And I'll just add that this and the next bill are outgrowths of the council's desire to have some initiative to do something with regard to these positions for which confirmation by council is required.
All right, need a motion to introduce legislative bill number 2020-07.
So moved.
Who made the motion? Mr. Cannon made the motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Any discussion? All those in favor of introducing legislative bill number 2020-07, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Chair votes aye. Introduction passes. Ms. Hurley.
We can schedule the public hearing on this bill for September the 15th at 10 a.m.?
September 15th at 10 a.m.?
Yes.
Okay. Mr. Taylor.
Next bill for introduction is legislative bill number 2020-08 to establish a procedure for removal from office for violation of local laws, and that such removal is not subject to judicial review, and to provide for sanctions for continuing in office after removal by amending the Wicomico County Code to include in Chapter 59 Personnel Rules and Article 4 titled Removal from Office, Sections 59-20 to 59-22. That is the second aspect of what I mentioned of the effort.
Okay, need a motion to introduce legislative bill number 2020-08. Got a motion by Mr. Cannon. Do we have a second? Second. Have a second by Mr. Davis. Any discussion? Any discussion? All those in favor of introducing legislative bill number 2020-08, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Chair votes aye. Ms. Hurley, we need a public hearing date.
September the 15th at 10 a.m.
September 15th at 10 a.m. again. Okay. Mr. Taylor.
The third bill for this morning is legislative bill number 2020-09, an act to prohibit unauthorized increase in the salary for a position stated in the budget and to establish liability for any excess and sanction for payment thereof by amending the Wicomico County Code to include in Chapter 59, Personnel Rules and Article 5 titled Other Rules and Section 59-23. And I might add that on the actual copy of the bill, there is a typo. It's my bad. It's referred to in the bill itself as 59-20, and that should be 59-23.
Okay, we'll make that correction. Need a motion to introduce legislative bill number 2020-09.
So moved.
Got a motion and a second. Mr. Davis made the motion. Mr. Cannon made the second. Any discussion?
Yeah, I have some discussion on these three bills that we've just introduced. I know there was a lot of discussion between council members and Mr. Taylor. I would urge that anybody that had any issues with any of this, that they try to get it all worked out before we bring it back and have to table it and rework it 3 or 4 more times. I think this is a good opportunity to do all this, and that's why we separated these, so. Anyway.
Okay, and I know Mr. Soda had a comment.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. President. Yes, on this particular legislation, we have the possibility of kind of gumming up the works pretty much on the management side of it. When you take a salary, I'll give you 2 examples.
Excuse me, Mr. Pasoda, if you can speak into the mic.
I'll give you 2 examples of where this can be problematic. Generally in the at the detention center, corrections, or on the sheriff's department side, where you have not a high degree of turnover, but you have a degree of turnover that's significant. You have a certain amount of it built in your budget, but if you've got an example such as a couple of, if you have individuals that are in the academy, and when they transition out of the academy, then they go from one pay level to the next. Based on this legislation, then we would have to come to the council and ask for those specific salaries to be increased. And likewise, in the sheriff's department, you'd also have, through promotions and a paramilitary style of administration, you'd have those things throughout the course of the year. That's just in those two departments. There's all kinds of instances where during the course of a year, again, your line item for a particular position can change. If you have to replace someone that retired, that retired, that you weren't aware that they were going to do that through the course of the year, and you replace them with someone that's maybe been in grade a little bit longer, you're going to end up increasing their salary. So it's just, again, problematic where the rubber meets the road in applying this particular legislation concerning salaries specifically.
Mr. Taylor, this wasn't designed to affect these employees that he's speaking
Yeah,
of.
the purpose of this was to be major shifts of money between positions, or for example, a position was in the budget with no funding at all, to essentially put funding in for that position. I think that if Mr. Pissotto can give us some suggested language to cover the concern that he has, that waterfront, we can put it in.
I guess
you know.
in listening to that, then we're talking about an amount, where I believe the language in the legislation is if you have a specific line item salaried position, and then you have to increase that, then we would have to come before the council to do that. I don't know what kind of language that you could put, what kind of language you could put in there to satisfy the council's concern.
Well, I don't know offhand either, but I know that, because I have checked around from some other counties, and it's not unusual to have an absolute list of every position and the payment for that, sometimes in the budget, sometimes separately as part of a classification and pay plan bill or resolution. Take a look at Anne Arundel County, it's 83 pages long in their code. I'm not suggesting we go that route, but I mean, that is an example of how some other counties with executive forms of government have done it, and there are others. So I think that it's possible to work out some language on that. The hearing on this won't be until September, what, did you say, 15th? So there's certainly a fair amount of time to do that.
Mr. Pissotto, can you work with Mr. Taylor on specific language?
Absolutely, and appreciate it.
Okay,
Yeah, 'cause I
any more
think,
discussion? Mr. Cannon?
Mr. Pissotto, could there possibly be an amendment to this bill whereas it allowed for relief from a particular department head through the council for any specifics that might arise? In other words, if you come up with a circumstances such as you've noted right now, is there terminology we could put in here saying?
That, with the exception of those particular natural causing.
Sure, I mean, putting some type of verbiage in here, whereas it allows the council to grant some type of relief or special exceptions.
Yeah, that's the general idea that I had. I mean, that it would
Sure.
be a, I don't know if you
think
call it safety valve, but a mechanism to do that.
Right, so it's not so hard and fast.
If you look at the public safety as their pay schedule, it's already listed in there for like if they're getting promoted, something like that, the salary is already listed. I think this is to cover someone who is in a position and then all of a sudden get a pay raise that's not already in the budget or it's not already listed. So I think their salaries with the jails and the sheriff's department is like separate from what is with the regular county employees, because they do have their pay scales and it's already reached out. Just like you said, Mr. Pissotto, with someone that's in the academy, their salary, I think it might be listed on the sheriff's chart that their salary is already listed on there, and it already states that when they come out of the academy, that their salary really increase when they go as a patrolman.
It's an automatic increase.
Yes, I think it's already stated in there on their part of their schedule, and I think it's the same way with the jails.
And that might be a kind of a quick down and dirty
Yeah,
way of
'cause they're
covering that
they're-
base.
It's like they're, because of where they get paid.
All right, any more discussion? Okay, all those in favor of introducing legislative bill number 2020-09, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Chair votes aye. Ms. Hurley, need the same date?
Yeah, it would be September the 15th at 10 a.m.
Okay. 15th at 10 a.m. Got it. Mr. Taylor, are you up again?
Yes, the last bill for introduction this morning, it's legislative bill number 2020-10, an act to authorize borrowing as required by section 507F3 of the county charter, not to exceed $2,928,292 for a water main and related facilities to furnish water service to the Salisbury, Ocean City, Wicomico Regional Airport, and for that purpose, the issuance and sale of general obligation bonds and notes constituting debt for which the faith and credit of the county is pledged, the appropriation of funds and levy of taxes for payment thereof, and certain other related, that's misspelled, pardon me, it should be, it reads released, but it would be related actions and duties. I would point out on this that what I've just read is a shortened version of the heading in the actual bill itself, which I think I did a word count on, and it's 400 words long. I'll be glad to read that if you want me to. I don't think it's going to add anything.
No.
I think what I've already said has the salient points of what that bill would do. I might just point out on this, because we've talked about it this morning, about reimbursement of certain grants and loans, and this is a reimbursement loan, as was the resolution that you passed a few minutes earlier for another airport matter, for a taxiway. So we're getting those, and the reimbursement amounts can be significant. Now, I think we met with Mr. Bozick and his office about a month ago, and we kind of ballparked that there might be a need for something in the range of, I believe it was between $500,000 and $1 million of funds to come in to cover this particular work, this water main extension, that would be not from what we're getting from the state. In other words, we have to pay those costs to get the reimbursement. And so I just point that out, that we're getting into these larger grants where that can be a factor, and I think this is probably one. In any event, I won't get into the weeds on the bill itself, because that was prepared by the county's bond counsel, and it's quite long, quite involved, and at least the few parts I skimmed sound good to me.
And we have it in our brief book.
Yeah, and you've got it in
Yeah.
your brief book. It's many pages long.
All right, need a motion to introduce legislative bill number 2020-10.
So moved.
Got a motion, do we have a second?
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Mr. President, I will point out that we are in a good position upon the passage of this legislative bill to allow Bramble, who's the contractor, to commence work and start drawing down on the grant money that's already in place that was approved at the last council meeting, as well as the intent to accept that grant.
Okay, any more discussion? All those in favor of introducing legislative bill number 2020-10, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Chair votes aye. Ms. Hurley?
I'm sorry, the public hearing is September the 15th at 10 a.m.
September 15th at 10 a.m. Okay, thank you. All right, this time we go to public comments. Please limit all public comments to 3 minutes or less, and state your name and your county of residence. And if you have copies, please submit 10 copies to the council members.
Sure, thank you. Darren Lombardo, Wicomico County. I hear the term public comments and I get all excited, like a horse chomping at the bit. I hear the bell, so here we go. I just passed around what we've probably seen before, and that is the Wicomico County School Report that was put together by the Maryland Department of Education. What we're looking at here is, I just wanted to give this to you so you know this was actually posted to, and by the way, I'm here as a fellow member of the Delmarva Parent Teacher Coalition. And so this school report card has been posted to the delmarvaptc.org website so the public can actually see it. Now, I hand this out because I wanted to talk about a couple of things. In the fall, in the fourth marking period of last year, when we went to distant learning, it was a disaster. Everyone can agree with that. Now, you know, given the state of COVID-19 and all that, you know, it was a scramble for everyone. So the report card that I passed out to you, it shows, if we look on the spectrum, what fourth marking period, or the last third marking period into fourth marking period last year, how that ended, it being a disaster on the spectrum of a scale. And then you look on a good day, pre-COVID-19 times, the academic achievement performance of Wicomico County in 2018 and 2019 is about half of what it should be. Elementary and middle school are less than half for academic performance. And so with that on the other end of the spectrum, last year, and knowing the actual overall performance, we know that the distant virtual learning model is going to fall somewhere in between. In between is inadequate. And so with that said, given the state of COVID-19 and everything we're working with, we have to do the absolute best that we can. And that's where I open up to, if you turn past, there is a sheet on there. The school system mentions something about using Google Classrooms, using Zoom, and they said something about Edmentum. Now, I am not here as a salesperson for Edmentum. There are many good platforms out there, so I'm just using it as an example. You can replace Edmentum with any other product that's out there. It's just so you understand the point. So anyway, when the reopening plan came out, Edmentum was listed there, but then it was excluded, so it created a contradiction, or, you know, what's going on here. So looking into the matter, we found out that Edmentum, one product of Edmentum, is going to be used for high school only. So I wanted to share with you, Edmentum offers 3 components: the exact path diagnostic assessment, which looks at a student to see where they're currently at. It looks at their math skills, their ELA skills. It looks at them, and it, depending on what goes on in their assessment, it knows how to build that core curriculum plan around the student. Very important. So they also have full courseware, turnkey. No picking and choosing. Right now, our instructors are going crazy figuring out how they're going to populate Google Classrooms with this component and that. What am I going to upload? So everyone's all in an uproar. How are we going to do this? And so with a set courseware with Maryland standards, the teachers would have a foundation which they could build on or take away, but it's a Maryland-aligned curriculum, which is very important as a foundation. And then we have a missing component, and that is, what do we do when school is over? A lot of teachers, after a certain time, they go home, and that's okay. It's understandable. Their day is done. But the students need assistance, and so this company offers 24/7, 365 one-on-one tutoring assistance to be there for the students on demand. And so it's very interesting how 15,200 students for the exact path diagnostic assessment would cost this county $178,000. The courseware for 15,200 students would cost $760,000. The after-school tutoring service, if we were to provide 2,000 students, because not everyone needs tutoring, but let's just say out of the 15,000, 2,000 students need tutoring assistance. It would cost for 20,000 hours. If we allocate it in a pool, kind of like an employer's self-insurance pot or pool, or however you'd call it, we could put money aside for tutoring assistance. And then, so if you look at it in entirety, casting the tutoring assistance aside, it would be less than $1 million to provide an adequate structure. The best that we can do within that spectrum that I specified. And so we can get 4,000 students. We could get 40,000 hours of one-on-one tutoring for $1 million. So with that said, with all the courseware and the diagnostic assessments, less than $1 million. With courseware and tutoring assistance for our students, it'd be less than $1.5 million. And so with that said, I'm not trying to sell this product. Like I said, we could replace it with anything. But the point is that we must do better. And CARES Act funding was allocated for these purposes. And so the school system has decided to use freeware such as Zoom and Google Classrooms, which is available to educational institutions for free. And so, and putting little pieces here and there of, I would call, cheaper solutions to fill in the gaps. We only have one shot at this. We can't mess around with our students, okay? We have seniors transitioning to college. We have all grade levels, people at all different levels. We only have one shot at this. We can't mess this up, okay? So that's something I just want to leave with you today to understand that are we allocating funds properly at the county level for the greatest rate of return, dollar for dollar? Very important.
Thank you, Mr. Lombardo.
I just wanted to make one more statement if I can. I'll try to be brief,
Okay.
and that is about our bus contractors. Our bus contractors, whenever you pull up the term school and you look at a school, there's always a picture of a bus, a school bus in the picture. That is the emblem of a school. Without a school bus, you don't have a school system. And so our bus contractors have to pay for their buses. They're independent contractors. They are owner-operators. They have lease and finance payments on their vehicles. They have maintenance, DOT regulations that they have to keep the vehicles within those standards, maintenance, insurance, all kinds of stuff. And they have to eat at the end of the day. So it's interesting how all the faculty members in the school system have a guaranteed paycheck, but a vital component, a cog in the wheel, has to be sliced up and get a little portion. And the way I look at it as you agree in a contract to give someone something, you hand them a biscuit, you stick the biscuit in their mouth, and then you rip it out of their mouth. They only get a bite of that biscuit. You take it away, and yet the very people who took it away have their biscuit, and it's full of butter and they're dousing honey on the top. That's the CARES Act funding. And so you look at it and you say, who's really getting hurt in the end? You know, the bus contractors, it's a domino effect. If they can't pay for their overhead, they're going to lose their buses. They're going to sell their buses so that they can eat and pay the mortgage on their homes. It's not fair. And so we need to look at the big picture of this, because once we lose our school buses, we can't get them back. You can't just go down to Pohanka and pick up a school bus. They're custom ordered, and it takes a lot of capital to get them. And so people need to really think about this closely. And, you know, I always say the greatest cost is not in pinching pennies. Well, how much can we reduce to save money? The greatest cost...
Mr. Lombardo?
Yes. The greatest cost is...
You've been over like 6 minutes.
I'm sorry.
Can you take the wipe behind you and wipe down the podium,
Yes, I
please?
certainly
I hate
can.
to cut you off. There's a young lady behind you waiting to
Yes.
speak.
The greatest cost is not spending sometimes, and that's the point I'd like to get at. And I thank you for the opportunity, and sorry to take so much time. Thank you, Council.
Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Katrina Purnell. I brought my own wipe.
Thank you.
I carry them with me. I believe in order and that God always plans things out, and I'm glad this gentleman spoke ahead of me, because my concern is broadband.
Yes, ma'am.
All of the things that he cannot talk about having, we cannot have it if we don't get more broadband on the eastern shore of Maryland. I understand that the governor has a commission on broadband, but we need to interact with them before the funds are used up for the western shore. We cannot continue to have people work from home for our students and not be able to access the property. I have a friend who has to, during this past time, drove into town and sat in a parking lot so that her granddaughter could get her homework done. That should not be. We have to be proactive and plan ahead of it. For all the basics, I say this because I'm a 32-year retiree of Verizon for the Mid-Atlantic region. The basic way is, sir, Route 50 only has 2 or 3 lanes. If those lanes get filled with businesses which are already using broadband, which are people working from home, students sometimes fall out. And when they fall out, it's hard for them to get back on. You've been on Route 50 when people are going back and forth from Ocean City. Once you get off of Route 50, it's hard to get back in, isn't it? That's what the students are facing. So I ask you, before we look to all of this that you all are talking about, you have to have access. You have to have a highway so that the kids and anybody else that works from home can get on and stay on without being eliminated. Thank you.
Thank you. Both of you had great questions or concerns, and we have the Board of Ed after lunch, and they're going to go over their plan with us, so thank you. Any more public comments?
My name is Jerry Hurley. I am passing around some papers of another comment from another parent of seniors in the county at this time. I do have 4 seniors here with me today and another parent. I am a teacher at Salisbury Middle School and again a parent of a senior. I have written letters to the Board of Education and other principals about our concerns for seniors. I am aware that in October they plan to possibly bring in small groups back in the school, such as special ed or ESL learners. We are requesting that seniors have the choice to come back in the schools at that time in October. We know that COVID is a real virus, but teen suicide, car accidents kill more teenagers than COVID. We have teenagers here today that work minimum wage jobs in the public. They wear masks every day. They serve you in our community, but then they're told they can't go back to school. We have seniors that are playing summer league sports, and now, thank goodness for Crown offering fall league sports, but they're told by the state they can't play high school sports. This is their last year as a senior. We are begging for that that sports will be allowed later in the year, and for Rock and Roll Revival at Bennett, which is a huge community event, as you all know. We have people that have served in Rock and Roll Revival and sports since they were freshmen. If any of you have had a senior, you know how important that year is to everyone, to the parents and to these seniors. They have 1 year left in high school. They don't get another chance. This is it. They're going to college next year. They need this chance with their teachers and with their classmates. Also, most seniors are only in school for a couple hours a day. They go to school for a couple hours a day and then they're done. They leave. They talked about buses, but most seniors either walk or provide their own transportation. So very limited transportation will be needed to get seniors to school. So they will be able to get there. Some seniors may not want to go back to school. We're asking for the choice for those that want to go back to be able to go back to school, to go for their 2 classes and then leave. As the schedule has been set up right now for high school, it severely conflicts with any senior or junior that is enrolled in dual enrollment at Warwick. Most seniors and juniors that do dual enrollment go to high school for the first 2 classes of the day, then go to dual enrollment at Warwick. My daughter and these other seniors are enrolled at Warwick for 2 or 3 classes at 10 or 11 o'clock or noon after their first and second periods in high school. As the schedule is set up right now, they don't have virtual classes until 10:15, which is the same time they are now enrolled in Warwick classes that they cannot change because those classes are full at this point. So these are very serious issues I don't think have been thought of or considered with this schedule and with seniors at all. You know, these seniors need to they need to be in the schools. They can get references to go to college next year or for jobs or the military, whatever they need to do. They need to be in the school at least their portion of the time, which is, again, only a couple hours again in the morning. We have other schools in Delaware that are doing a hybrid. I believe Delmar's doing a hybrid. Of course, you have private schools going back, which is their option. I just want the seniors to have their option to go to school at least in October when they open it back up for special ed. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Do we have any more public comments? Can you wait for her to wipe the podium? Okay.
Hello, my name is Sierra Hurley, and I live in Wicomico County, and I'm going to be a senior at James M. Bennett High School this year. I am a captain of the dance program in the Rock and Roll Revival, and I've played field hockey at Bennett all 4 years. I've been extremely active in school. I've been in clubs through high school, and high school has been my whole life. It just brings me pure joy to go to school every day and see all of my friends, and I've just been extremely distraught not being able to go back to school. On the last term at the end of the school year last year, I learned absolutely nothing. We only had to do one assignment for 2 weeks to be able to pass, and that's what I did. So I learned nothing. And this coming year, I'm planning to go to a good college. I had a 4.25 GPA last year, and I believe that I should have the choice as my senior year to be able to go back to school to learn my full education. I have worked all summer as a full-time job, 40 hours a week with a mask on, and I have no problems with that. I believe I'm responsible enough to wear gloves and mask or anything, and I believe I'm responsible enough to social distance in school to get my own education. I believe that we can set up a classroom, something like this that you guys have going on, and I will be able to get a better education to be able to go to college and sit where you guys are sitting today, because that's what I want to do with my life. And thank you for giving the opportunity and thoughts for us to be able to go back to school at some point this year. Thank you.
Thank you. You can clap if you want. Do we have any more? Yes, ma'am.
Hi, my name is Jana. I'm also a senior at Bennett. I'm also very heavily involved. I'm the captain of the field hockey team. I also play softball, and I'm also involved in many clubs. And I just feel that we should have the option to go back to school. And as a senior, I know me and my friends, we have been looking forward to this for the past 4 years, both academically and athletically. And I just think that this is a very important year to be in the school and be involved. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Do we have any more comments?
Hi, good morning. My name is Victoria Hoisington. I live in Wicomico County, and I'm going to be a senior at James M. Bennett High School. I'm here in your consideration today to advise the Wicomico Board of Education in letting our senior class be able to choose to go back to school. I'm a third and the last child of my family, so I got to see my older sister and older brother go to Bennett at the same time, going all through 4 years. And they're in college now, so they always say to me how they miss high school and it was the best 4 years of their lives. And looking back, it just reminds me what is my senior year going to look like? Is it going to be the same as theirs? Am I going to have the same experiences as they had? And it makes me sad because I want everything I can for my last year, because this last year is it, and then I'm going off to college, and Lord knows how that's going to be. And I'm just really happy to be here with a couple of my friends to show you that we do care and we do want to go back to school. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
You can clap. Do we have any more comments? Yes, sir.
Good morning. I'm Jeff Reddish. I'm a Wicomico County resident. I'm a parent. Micah's my son over there, and just wanted to kind of go over. I'm sure you guys have been beat to death with different things, but I'm going to beat you to death a little bit more. the one thing I wanted to comment on was the distance learning. I work at NASA, and we're on distance learning. And if you get more than 4 or 5 people on a gnome or what these, it's a mess. When people are trying to talk and communicate, and you've got multiple people on there, it's a mess. So even though they're trying to go this way, once you get multiple people on there and they're trying to talk and they're trying to learn, they're trying to teach, it becomes a mess. You talk over each other. So I feel we need to get back face-to-face learning. I'm going to go through a couple things. My background, I had 2 seniors last year that didn't get to graduate, didn't get the memories of. One was in college, one was in high school. They've lost all their memories of their senior year in college, their senior year in high school. My one son went to Bennett, and they were done. And you know, you're talking about memories. Those memories are lost. The baseball team at Bennett was a state champ the year before. They could have repeated this year. They had the team, but it was lost. So what kind of memories do you have when you could be a 2-time state champ? That's a great memory. When I went to high school and John went to Y High, we killed Bennett every time we played them during my time frame. And we could, you know, we can brag on that. You know, our football teams destroyed Bennett, our baseball teams destroyed Bennett, and those are great memories and things you can talk about and debate about. But you can't do it if you're not in school and you're not doing it. So these are great memories. My son, I mean, I'm going to be a little bit biased. He got 4th in the state last year in wrestling. He's positioned to win it this year. That may go away. And I mean, being a state champ in wrestling is like a pinnacle of a high school career. And that's just not him. You know, you're talking multiple people that could be state champs throughout the county and the states, the United States, and it's being taken away from. And I know COVID is there, but for these kids, it's asymptomatic. Usually any conditions associated with these kids and these ages are asymptomatic. And the people that need extra care and extra protection, we have, you know, you come up with ways to do that. Sports, I think most of us played sports. That builds character, that builds strength, that shows you how to win, that shows you how to lose. All that's being taken away, but the county can have programs in the county, but the school's not going to have them. That doesn't even make sense to me. How can you play the same sport in the county and it's okay, but you can't play them in school? You're doing the same thing. There's no differences, right? And you're in the open air. I mean, you're playing outdoors. I don't know. I find the logic. I'm an engineer by trade, so I'm trying to follow the logic here, and I don't see the logic. I just see a lot of emotion and people just running on emotion and politics in my mind. But beyond that, and doing a little bit of research, the Centers of Disease Control and Prevention, the director said, we never told them to close schools. And I'll quote, he says, it's in the public health's best interest that K through 12 students get back to face-to-face learning. There is really very significant public health consequences of the schools being closed. And then the New England Journal of Medicine stated, we believe that the safely reopening schools full-time for all elementary school children should therefore be a top priority of the nation. I mean, we've got the Center for Disease Control that tells us what to do and what not to do with diseases, saying open the schools. It's more of an issue not to open the school than it is to open the school. I mean, the facts are there. Why are we not following the facts logistically? You, as leaders of the community, can start here and facilitate this thing and get us moving. I'd hate for these kids to lose their senior year and to lose their memories. I mean, Ernie here, we destroyed him. I mean, they can't say that if we do that. You know, right, John? Say aye if you agree. I'm staying out of that. Yes, sir. So it's like, you know, let's be the leaders on the Eastern Shore. I think if we on the Eastern Shore, Wicomico County started and stood up. I know leadership, sometimes you have to be a leader in difficult situations. Leadership starts, I bet you we'd have a lot of people following us if we said, hey, we're going to open Wicomico schools. I bet you We just need one county to do it, and I bet you multiple counties will start to follow. I think maybe we should need to start it here. So that's all I have to say.
Right.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jeff. Do we have any more comments?
All right, what I have to say is not going to be that good, but
Be careful.
I go to Bennett. I live here in Wicomico County, and I just want to say, based off school, the online learning is very bad. I mean, when kids found out they have to do one assignment every 2 weeks, I mean, that's all they did. And going off of sports, it's like I started freshman year, and I'm already have a chance of winning. So it's like all that hard work I put in. It's like not just wrestling, but obviously baseball too. It's like you don't want that taken away from you. And the chance to win states will stay with you forever. Your senior year will stay with you forever. So just taking it away because of a virus that all of us, we might get, will be absolutely fine. And online schooling is going to be bad. It's just opening up schools will be the best option overall, I think. And that's just all I have to say.
Thank you, Micah. I didn't even recognize you. You've grown a lot in the past couple of years. Do you have any more comments? I see some people out in the hall.
Good morning. My name is Lori Pitts. I'm a Wicomico County resident. I actually have 2 sophomores at Bennett going into sophomore year this year. I've always told my kids high school years are an incredible time for you, a lot of great memories to be made, and I've been dealing with, a daughter telling me how, in tears, how are these going to be the best years when I'm sitting home watching Netflix and not learning anything online? Both of my kids really feel like they've learned nothing. They're terrified that when they go to college, they're not going to be prepared because, it's just like some other people have said, bare minimum, kids are doing bare minimum, and that's a big concern. I know I've talked to a number of parents that feel like they'd be willing to sign a waiver if the concern is that, someone's going to be held liable if someone in my family got COVID. I would sign a waiver in a heartbeat to allow my children to go back to school and have the option to do so, just to have the experiences and the in-person learning and the social piece of it, which is very important, because otherwise staying home, you're giving these kids just a free pass to watch Netflix and be, sedentary. And it's leading to depression in a lot of cases. I've seen some friends that, their kids are just doing nothing but laying around, not even doing social things because they're upset and they don't know what their future holds. So anyway, I also, from somebody who works from home, the idea of having my children on video with me on video all day long, it's to the point about the broadband and, having the access is going to be absolutely horrible. So anyway, I appreciate the time today. Thank you.
Thank you. Do you have any more public comments? I know we have people out in the hall.
If one of you would like to trade with someone out there,
Any more public comments?
so come in.
No one out in the hall. Okay, this moves on to council comments. Do we have council comments? Ernie?
Hey, first I want to address Mr. Reddish's comment.
I was waiting for that.
We all went to Bennett. If you check the record, Bennett had a football team that went back-to-back state championship undefeated over Wahai.
We're gonna have to check that.
It's there. I understand these parents' complaint. Saturday, I had to take my daughter back to school. She went back to North Carolina, and I asked her, I said, "Are you comfortable with going?" She had no problem with it. She said she'd rather be there. I mean, when they shut down the school, she was home on Zoom watching her teacher, and I was sitting there watching for a while, and the screen freeze up. She didn't know what he was doing, so she was ready to go back to school, and we took her back Saturday, and I think she starts classes tomorrow, so I feel your pain. She left. Where'd Miss Katrina go? Miss Katrina, I don't know if you're aware, but Chop Tank is now in the process of getting broadband.
I understand that the Chop Tank thing that Delegate Hughes worked on is
mainly gonna be for Somerset County.
No, it's gonna be in Wicomico.
Well, that's great. The more
It's gonna be in
we get, the
Wicomico.
easier it'll be for kids to go to school.
It's gonna, that broadband's gonna cover every area that Chop Tank service. So it is to cover once it get implemented. So they are working on it.
But it's specific to the Chop Tank area, correct?
Yes. Their customers, which are mostly out in the outskirts of the county because Comcast doesn't provide. I think Joe can vouch for that because he's got a. You guys can see this little box he's got. That's what he's using when he go home for his internet.
Verizon.
service.
Any more council comments? Mr. Hastings?
Good.
Well, also want to say, of course, that I can't let that slide without saying Mardella's football team is undefeated. We've also, of course, have never won a game either because Mardella was too small to have a football team. Yeah. No, in all seriousness, I did want to thank everyone for coming up and for coming and speaking today. We've had this COVID issue is obviously is ongoing and not simple, not an easy one to do. And I know there's been a lot of back and forth with the folks who are a lot of the educators. My twin sister, and my brother are both Wicomico educators, and my sister's actually been helping try to greatly enhance the training of the teachers in order to prepare for this process. But it's certainly not something that I think most educators, and I think everybody knows where they want to be and how they want it to happen. But we're obviously not there. It'd been nice had we just shut the country down for 21 days. We would have been through this, but we're 158 days and going, and that's going to continue. This is 45 Wicomico residents who have died because of the disease, and more than 1,400 who have been infected. And I don't want to lose in sight of that, because that's this is a real issue and it affects certain people stronger than it does other individuals. Last thing I'll say though. The Wicomico County Executive Culver, his funeral was actually recently last week, and I did want to say that it was a fitting tribute, I think, from the sound, the sounds, the songs, the pictures, the speakers and the stories. It was a fitting tribute to County Executive Culver, and he will be missed. We were going to go through the process this week of interviews for a new county executive, and and that'll be on Thursday. I think we'll probably mention that later, but that's all I have, Mr. President. Thank you.
All right. Ms. Ackley?
Well, as a council member, I see myself and the others at this table as a representative of the citizens and a good steward of tax dollars. Public education takes up almost 50% of the tax dollars in this county, so this is something that is on the table, and it needs to be addressed. So I'm glad to see that they will be coming today to outline their application for CARES funding and how it will be utilized. Thank you all for coming, and it's great to see youth engagement. I'm so glad that you are able to make it. I know that's very intimidating to get up there and speak. So as a mother of 3 in the public school system, I truly appreciate hearing your voice. And just wanted to let you know we do have a Wicomico Youth Advisory Council that will be communicating with council in the future. So if that's something we would all be interested in, we would love to have you. Thanks.
All right, thank you. Any more council comments?
Make a
Okay.
comment.
Make it real quick.
I just want to say that for the Board of Education, we'll say that the education beginning this year will be very different than the spring, which it is set up to be. But as far as a teacher, I have not received any training yet in that, and it still will not be the face-to-face training that they need. So no matter what they say it will not be the face-to-face training.
Thank you, Ms. Hurley. Mr. Cannon?
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd also like to thank the parents and the students for coming out. That's great. I wish I could have spoken as well as each of you did when I was in high school, but I was not as good, I don't think. I did wrestle, obviously not in the same weight class, but I only got to like the regional levels. I ran into a guy from Rising Sun, and to get to the state level is absolutely amazing. It's absolutely fantastic. It's like the gladiators of the 21st century. It's very hard to accomplish that. But that being said, having personal stories from the parents and the students really helps, I think, from the council's perspective. As has been said, we're going to be meeting with the Board of Education later, it does give us, a perspective to help us sort of evaluate clearly as to what they're talking about, separating sort of just the data from the real personal effects of what's happening to the families and the kids on a day-to-day basis. And we want to trust that the Board of Education is looking at all the consequences and taking those into consideration. I'm very much hoping that this fall semester, as they're proposing it, will be 10 times more efficient than what what had been done in the spring. They acknowledged that the spring was not a successful educational process. So looking forward to seeing what the Board of Education is going to say. And again, we will also take into consideration some of the comments that were made today, a suggestion as waivers, et cetera, to see exactly what their position might be. So thanks again for coming in.
All right, thank you. Any more council comments? All right, I'd like to thank everyone in attendance today. Thank you guys for attending. It's always great when our public engages with the council. I'd also like to congratulate all the committee appointments and reappointments. It's long overdue. Thank you, Mr. Pessotto, for working on that. To all the teachers and students, thank you for being here. Thank you for saying what's on your mind. I'm kind of partial to Parkside, but my kids grew up with a lot of you kids, but when you got to high school, you went your different ways with sports and different schools, but you still became friends. So a lot of my constituents are at Bennett, so I support you guys. So thank you for being in attendance. And to you seniors, good luck this year. We're hoping for the best. Like Mr. Hastings said, attended Mr. Culver, the county executive's memorial service the other day and made a presentation. It was a nice memorial service, and everybody that was there, thank you for attending. Tomorrow night, Warwick is having a graduation at Purdue Stadium, and we're going to be practicing social distancing, so it is kind of awkward to have graduation somewhere other than the Civic Center or a high school, but that's where it's happening tomorrow because of COVID. So with that said, I'm going to move on. So to adjourn from legislative session and go into open work session, followed by a closed administrative session pursuant to General Provisions Article Section 3-104 to discuss the process of the appointment of the county executive. Need a motion to go into open work session.
So moved.
All right. Now we have Ms. Holly Porter. Thank you all.
Hurts a little ears, man.
Okay.
You know, bigger ears or less tight mask.
Kill him a little ear.
You probably change the mask easier.
Who would have thought that education and schooling could be more controversial than that? As a parent of two, it is.
You understand? Yes, sir. Good morning.
Good morning. Still morning. Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity to be here today to talk a few minutes about a topic I know that has been brought to the council several times over. I will say that I was hoping that I would have some folks here from MDA and MDE to also be able to share information. It appears they were not able to, but so therefore I'm not here to answer any regulatory questions. Really, what I want to do is just to share information about an overview of what is DAF, what is this that we keep talking about, why is it that tanks may be needed, what goes into the tank, and also to talk about some other things that the chicken industry is doing. So before I get started, for those who don't know me, I'm Holly Porter. I'm the Executive Director of the Delmarva Poultry Industry Incorporated. This feels really weird I know you guys are spread out, so forgive me if I don't get the chance to eye contact with everyone. So again, this is something that is part of the chicken industry. It is a process that is part of the chicken industry, and that's why I wanted to just share some information. I believe that many of you have probably received sort of a frequently asked questions that was put together last year. Some of these are going to be very similar points to that. When we talk about DAF, DAF itself is actually the process. It is a process, it's called dissolved air flotation. It's basically the process of taking the wastewater that comes from any food processing plant of any sort, adding to it dissolved air and certain chemicals that basically has, the wastewater and the solids separating so that it can continue through the wastewater process. So the remaining liquid would discharge to a treatment plant, and then the DAF residuals is what you would have left. So again, those are our DAF tanks. These are just ones that I found online. They're not any particular to any of the processing plants in our area, but they have the very similar look to those. So the one on the right is one where they're starting to add the air to as well. So the DAF residuals is really what we're talking about. And those are the skimmed, and we say solids, it's more of a liquid form than it is solid per se. And those residuals, they're not animal waste, and they're not human waste biosolids. And I think that's very important to understand. These are not biosolids. Are they legal in the state of Maryland? Yes, they are considered a soil amendment. So they are registered with the state chemist of the Maryland Department of Ag, and they're used for agricultural purposes, just like any other soil amendments or fertilizer, in order to help plants grow. Essentially, you're increasing organic matter, you have some nutrient content, and it's helping plants to grow. So it is really a sustainable use for something that would otherwise be considered a waste. So again, the soil conditioners, the soil amendments, which the DAF residuals fall under, are regulated by the state chemist, and the application of these residuals is also regulated by the Maryland Department of Agriculture through their nutrient management program. So all farmers are required to have nutrient management plans, and those plans basically say how much nutrients the field needs based off of the crop that they're growing. And all of that includes, nutrients, whether that's from commercial fertilizer, whether that's from chicken litter, whether that's from DAF or any other soil amendments that are used. And then farmers are required to report that information on their annual implementation reports, or AIR reports, that go to the Department of Ag. That's as regulatory as I'm probably going to get here in saying all of that information. So why did we need storage? Why is storage needed sometimes on a farm for this DAF residual? Well, there's a couple reasons. Number one, when you have storage, you're going to actually decrease the amount of time that it takes to put this soil amendment onto the fields. So again, there's two topics that have come up, I believe, at this council meeting. There's the application piece, and there's the tank piece. The application piece, part of the concern is the length of time that it's taken for these materials to go in the field. The tank actually shortens that because the materials are here. They're close. They're close to the fields where they're going to go to. It's no different than a tank on a farm that's holding commercial fertilizer, nitrogen or phosphorus or whatever the case might be. The material is there. It makes it quicker for the farmer. It also allows storage for when there's inclement weather. Again, just a couple weeks ago, we had the hurricane tropical storm came our way, and farmers couldn't get on the fields. You couldn't put anything onto the field. So again, the storage tank allowed for the capability of farmers to still be collecting that because the processing plants are running and still have that material available so that when they are ready to get back on the fields, they would be able to do so. And then one of the biggest reasons for the storage tank, and one of the reasons why the storage tank is sort of a new concept, is really the ban that was put on and really started to be implemented in the past couple of years by the Maryland Department of Ag, where farmers are not able to put nutrients on fields between December 15th and February 28th. Now, just because the farmers aren't putting things on fields doesn't mean that the product itself is not still being created. Again, the processes, the chicken processing plants are still running. So you have to have storage. This is no different again than our chicken farmers that have to have storage for their litter during the time frame where farmers are not able to put it onto the fields, or a dairy farmer or a hog farmer would have to have storage for these materials because they cannot go onto the fields. Is the tank safe? This has been a big question that has come up many times, and yes, it is safe. It is constructed to USDA NRCS standards, and I will tell you, there are probably no tougher standards out there than USDA NRCS standards. As a matter of fact, when those tornadoes were coming through a couple weeks ago, your best place you probably could have been in was a chicken manure shed, because those are also built to USDA NRC standards, and I guarantee they are not falling down. So again, there are specific standards that these have to be built to. There is specific ways that they are built so that they're going to protect to make sure that there's not an overflow. Again, these are questions that came up. Is there the possibility of an overflow with a major rain event? No, they would not have it. Plus, there are also weekly tests that are done to make sure that it's not going to be filled all the way to the top, basically to prevent any possible types of overflow. In addition, from the environmental aspect as well too, these tanks, especially ones of the size that was built, and probably ones in the future that would be built, are going to have a disturbance of more than 1 acre. So therefore, they're going to be required to have a stormwater management plan, just like any of our chicken farms that are built as well too. And again, those plans are meant to mitigate any potential stormwater runoff or environmental risks to any waterways around the area. Again, there's just a view. Hopefully you've had the opportunity to go out to Porter's Mill Road and see the one that is constructed. Right now the corn's almost hiding it. But again, very similar concept in the look of the tank. We've heard throughout the time frame, are there other tanks like this out there? And the answer is yes, there are. There are other storage tanks on Delmarva that have been used for a number of years. And again, keep in mind, these storage tanks are not special for DAF. These storage tanks are no different than tanks that would be used for livestock farms or lagoons that would be used for livestock farms, specifically for livestock other than chickens. So again, chicken litter is a very dry. When you look at dairy, you look at hogs, storage tanks and lagoons have been used for years. These are the same exact types of tanks that are being utilized for that. And of course, the big question, will the tank smell? That was the big question, that was the big concern, that was the big unknown, to be perfect, the big unknown for those constituents who were concerned. Let me clarify with that. So unless the materials inside of the tank are being stirred up, there is very minimal smell, if any. And I can say that, as a matter of fact, just last Wednesday I drove out, I sat in the lane of that, where the tank is, and got out, had my windows down, I smelled nothing. So there's a material that's going to crust over the top of the tank, or I'm sorry, there's a crust that will appear over the top of the material, and that really helps that's one way to help decrease the tank odor. When the materials are being stirred up, meaning when they're being mixed up to be removed to then put on, that's when there will be a smell. There's no denying that. Again, I live in an area no more than a few miles from where one of these tanks are. There is a smell, but it is a temporary smell. In addition, there has been a lot of research into different additives, enzymes, chemicals that can be placed, and there have been additives actually put into the current tank that is out there now, and really, they really feel good about the additives that have been added, because many of the farmers themselves, the folks who have worked with them, are not having nearly the smells. So they're actually excited about potentially using these types of additives for other areas and other tanks as well too. So there are ways that we can mitigate the smell. There's also ways that can be mitigated as well, in the sense that, again, the current tank and in any future tanks, there are trees that are around. About 2/3 of this, there are trees that are already around it. This is no different than when we build chicken houses, we put vegetative environmental buffers around those. Those help reduce smell, they help reduce air, dust, and so forth. So very similar concepts for ways to help reduce. And so then my final slide is, and this, again, we heard from many constituents, that, well, what is the chicken industry doing about this? Is there other alternatives? Are there other ways? So the chicken industry is always looking forward. We're always looking for improvements. We're always looking for different ways to do things. There are several companies out there, I have to add, none of which are operational at this point in time, but there are several companies out there that are looking at some long-term alternatives in being able to utilize the DAF material in a different way, whether that's to process into an anaerobic digestion, into some other type of dehydration, where you still have the nutrient content and you're able to capture that nutrient content back out and still be able to utilize it onto the fields as well. So again, there are several that even have names to them. Again, none of which are operational, but they do have names. They are being looked at. They're talking to companies, and they're seeing what technology may or may not work at this time. So again, the material, the DAF material has been placed in fields for years and years and years. This is not anything new. This is not new to the poultry or processing or any food processing. Again, I think some of the new feel has been, again, having the tank build for storage, and some concerns with smell more recently than others. The other piece that I will end with, again, I didn't want to talk too much about the application, but one of the farmers who often had constituent concerns purchased some new equipment this year, has been utilizing that equipment to make sure that the material is injected into the soils better. And, again, I won't say that this is end all be all. I don't have wood here in front of me, but we have received, I was receiving the phone calls and talking with MDA and talking with others. We've received very, very few complaints this year that we are aware of when it comes to the smell and the odors and such. I will end there and answer any questions.
Do we have any questions?
Yeah, thanks for coming in, Holly, appreciate it.
Mr. Holly.
One thing we've received questions about is the reason the tank was put in is because of storage between December 15th and February 28th. That's why the tank was needed.
That's one of the reasons, yes.
Yes, and what was being said in the correspondence we received is that they were filling the tank up even other times of the year.
Sure.
So.
Sure. So I don't believe that, and again, I will not speak on behalf of anybody with the tank, but I don't believe there's any time where it said it would only be used during that time frame. As a matter of fact, as I mentioned previously, when you have the tank in the central location in the central area, what that does is that allows for you to be able to move that product and apply that product in a faster manner, even during times when it's not being used, or basically when you can put it onto the fields. So I don't believe that there was any indication made that it would only be used to store it at that point in time and only be used to remove it at that point in time. But that is one of the main reasons why that it was being built.
Okay.
Mr. McCain.
I got a couple questions. How come the processing plants don't have these tanks at their processing facilities?
Again, I won't be able to necessarily answer on behalf of the companies, except for to say that for several of them, they may not have the land for it. The other piece of it would be, again, the farmer is the one that's using it. So, again, think about your commercial fertilizer. You have Nutrient, or you have Willards that have, all of these materials. But for many of our grain farmers, they want to have that product located on their farm so that they can use it when they need it, when they're ready to use it.
Right, well, I'll address that. I know you keep mentioning that, but I mean, the users, particularly in our county, I mean, they're pretty large farmers. They distribute this all over the county. I mean, it's not getting put in the field next door. I mean, they're literally going from the western half of the county to the eastern half of the county. So there's quite a bit of, distribution in terms of the distance required. So it's hardly a factor of it being in their backyard of their farm.
So it's on the fields that they till.
Right, but of course they put it in the fields, but
Right.
my point is, it's not all just being done locally within a couple miles or something of the tanks. I mean, they literally transport it from, that's just a fact, they transport it from the western side of the county to the eastern side of the county, because they have fields and those all throughout the county.
Right, so, and we have one processing plant in the county, correct?
I'm talking about the farmers that are putting this on the fields.
Right, I guess maybe I'm not understanding the question.
Okay, you have DAF tanks and
Sure,
they put it on the fields.
right,
Right, they're not putting it on fields that are just around where those tanks are located.
correct. That's
They
no
had to-
different than a large grain farmer with a commercial, that, again, they have commercial fertilizer and they have a tank in one location, that they're putting that throughout wherever their fields are located.
Right, but my point is, you repeatedly kept saying they're putting it close to where these tanks are located. But that's
Closer
not,
than where their processing plants are located then, I guess.
well, in some cases, but in some cases not. One other question I have has to do with it appears, and I know this has come up in a lot of the discussions, this is not a fertilizer.
It's a soil amendment, correct?
Right, it's a soil, what's the term you used?
Soil amendment.
A
So
soil amendment.
and fertilizers, both fall under the Maryland Department of Agriculture, the state chemist approves
Right.
those.
But it's obvious in a lot of these cases, the fields are a place to dispose of this product. Because they gotta empty the tank. I mean, you make your money by getting rid of the product. So you have to, dispose this product. So,
The
and that's
material's being used on crops.
well, I live next to a field where this is applied. No crop has been harvested in 3 years from that field.
Okay. And that I'm not aware of.
And,
but-
the crop gets planted after the DAF's applied, never harvested. So, and that's not the only case. I mean, this happens a lot, because as I'll say again, the money is in the tank, the more you be able to keep that tank full and store it, so you gotta dispose of that product. And I know some of the arguments people have made that have come here that have spoken is, there's a lot more of this product than what, is quotes needed on their fields. I mean, they're looking for places to dispose of the product.
So the only thing I would say to that is, again, the Maryland Department of Ag under the nutrient management plan would determine how much can go onto the fields based off of the crop that is being planted.
Okay. Thanks.
Ms. Ackley,
Ms. Porter, thank you for coming today.
can you speak up?
Sure. What I'm hearing from citizens on the west side of town is it's a public health concern, and they've received quite a bit of conflicting information, or they feel as though they have. So, being from Western Pennsylvania and not growing up around farms or chickens, I had them call me every time they had an issue with the tank on the west side of town. And I can tell you that tank is filled to the top. I absolutely witnessed it, and when they're mixing it, it's up there, and it's a very large tank. Now I know you can't really speak to this specific tank, but what is the best approach for us to help manage this problem?
So, again, I think that I'm not here as an enforcement, I'm not here as a regulatory. So, if there are issues or concerns, like I'm not aware of those. So first of all, second of all, I guess it would be a matter of contacting the farmer to better understand what the issue is, what the problem is. Because again, I guess the question is, Well, you know what, I'm not even going to speak because, again, I have not seen that. So I can't speak to what is and isn't happening or what is and isn't right. Really, what I'm here to speak to is that what this product is, what a tank is that would be used, and why it's used. So, you know, for me to sit here and say how it's been used, I'm not there every day and I'm not seeing that. You know, I think if there are questions for public health that could be directed to public health, I don't think I have a really good answer on that specifically.
Okay. So you mentioned some other alternative ways to dispose of this and that what other companies have done. Is that something that could be, is it something that could be installed, or could that be, the infrastructure of that be placed after a tank has been built?
So again, let me clarify, none of these are operational. There is nothing at this moment. There's a lot of research.
Okay.
There are a lot of groups looking at a lot of these. I'm sure you recognize some names where you've seen those names for 5 years or so. But nothing is necessarily up and running and operational at this point in time. There are some that I think are closer to having some operational aspects. So, you know, to say those are long-term, I guess is what I would say. Those are long-term, and they're very hopeful long-term for a number of different reasons, whether it's for DAF, whether it's for poultry litter and so forth. But there's nothing operational at this moment in time, so I'm not sure that we can say what would and wouldn't work.
Let's see. Okay, thank you.
Mr. Cannon.
Yeah, Mr. Porter, thank you for being here today. I think maybe part of the confusion between what Mr. McCain was asking and what you were trying to present is, and I hope I'm right with this, the DAF tanks are not a commercial or industrial operation, whereas the person that owns that DAF tank can sell it and distribute it all over the county. It has to go on that individual's property, as I understand it. So I think that's what you were trying to stress when you said it has to be applied locally.
Correct.
Now, granted, that farmer can have a farm 10 miles down the road in a completely different section.
Or fields they lease. It
Correct.
doesn't have to be
Or
properly
leasing,
owned.
right, exactly.
Correct. So
But
it's fields under their control.
Right, sure.
Right, so I think that might be the difference in where everybody, you both thought you were talking the same in the different language. So I think that might be
Yes.
what the difference is. And also, I think we noticed with the DAF, the same thing you did with the poultry industry. A lot of times, you know, they will, you'll find a conflation of issues, whereas so many people came in here and were concerned about the poultry, the houses. And when we got many public comments, they were actually talking about the odors of the manure that's being spread on fields. I think we're seeing a lot of the same thing here. There's a huge reaction when the DAF tank first went up with concerns about flies, with concerns about odor. And granted, I don't know about the flies, but I could see why there's some odor, as you said, when they were loading and unloading. But I think there was also the concern of many about the odor when it was being spread on the fields. And the DAF tank was the, you know, was the one issue where they pointed at that item. It was a tangible issue. I think the bigger concern to the community as a whole might be the process of spreading it. I bring that up because there are two processes, are there not? And one is easier to do than the other. There's also chemicals that can be applied when it's being spread that's a little more expensive, but it can also help reduce the odor. Do you know whether or not the industry is planning to look towards those type of standards to maybe give the homeowners? Now, I understand the Right to Farm Act, but to give some type of relief to the homeowners?
Sure. So again, as I mentioned, they're using the chemicals now, right now, as we speak. And again, from, you know, I know, you know, the summer's not over, but we have not heard, now that's not to say that maybe you folks are still hearing, but we have not heard the complaints. And it has been, I mean, we've been utilizing this material all spring and summer long, just like we were the past couple of years. So, you know, again, there's a combination of things that have taken place. Number one, again, is the type of equipment that was used. I think you're talking about the different methods. Oftentimes it depends on the crop that it's going on to. So when it's being utilized for corn, primarily corn, some soybean, mainly corn, there's a different method than, for instance, if it was being utilized for turf. Turf, some of the original equipment that was used caused some streaking in it. for anybody who's paying big money for turf, you don't want streaking in your grass, essentially. So again, this equipment that was purchased, some recent purchases of equipment have actually been able to be utilized on turf as well. Again, it gives some better injection, so the material's going more into the ground. And so what has been the thing that seems to have had less people calling this year, we're not certain, but both things have been utilized, both adding chemicals for the material itself as well as the equipment that is used and how it's used. So hopefully it's working, but again, correct me if there are more complaints that we just aren't aware of.
Mr. Holloway.
Mr. Porter, I want to go back to Bill and John's conversation. I don't know if I missed something in there. Are you saying the only place that this is being spread is on a farm field that the person that owns the tank is leasing or owns?
It is supposed to, so anytime that you have this, it's used on material or on the grounds that are under management by the farmer.
Which
typically.
farmer?
I'm sorry?
Which farmer?
The farmer
That owns the tank?
The farmer that's leasing the ground. So yes, so again, I don't necessarily, I'm not here to talk specifics about one specific tank and one specific farmer, although obviously that is the big issue.
Because we only have one.
Right. Well, no, there are others. So, but that's the, the major issue. But when any farmer, so another farmer says they want to build this tank, just like if a farmer says that they want to build a tank to hold commercial fertilizer, they're using that commercial fertilizer on the grounds that they have under their control, whether it's by lease, whether it's by farming. They can't sell that material. They can't sell, if they were to take, I've got some extra fertilizer, I'm going to sell it to the neighbor down the road, then that's when it becomes commercial.
Okay, so that's what's happening. They are putting it on other people's fields. The person that owns the tank spread. I mean, we had that situation on Dyksboro Road.
Are they being sold?
I don't know. I don't know what their financial situation is.
And I don't either.
But it's not going on just the property that the person that owns the tank controls or leases. It is going, because it goes on turf farms.
Right.
Anyway, I just wanted to clear that up. I think there was a little misunderstanding in the conversation there that it's just, anyway, so.
Sure.
Okay.
Thank you. Mr. Hastings.
Thank you, Holly, for being here. We did reach out, by the way, to Department of Agriculture and Department of Environment and others to be here, and they've still never given us a response and taken the time to come here. And this has been an issue we've been dealing with this for a year now. We've had a lot, and I mean a lot of citizens come in and speak about this and have come in and talked about it, and a lot of folks who are probably watching right now. I told some of them that I would grab some of their questions and bring them at least to you, and you and I have spoken for, and you've been good at this, but for the broader public, some of the questions were as follows. What is able to be put into the tank? If there's a DAF tank.
Well, again, it's a storage tank. It's an on-farm storage tank. So it would be whatever criteria falls into that on-farm storage tank. So I'm not sure what.
So a lot of citizens are concerned that there's going to be mutilated poultry byproduct put in there in addition to manure. In addition, we've heard all sorts of stuff. So I don't know if you want to give that a moment to be able to say what could actually be put into a tank itself.
Again, it depends on what the tank was built for. I mean, so for instance, a manure storage shed is built to hold chicken litter, and it's designed in a specific way to hold chicken litter. So the tank, any type of tank is designed for specific to what it's holding. So again, on-farm storage tank that's holding commercial fertilizer is going to look different than an on-farm storage of chicken litter or dairy manure. So I'm not sure that I can answer that question except for to say that what an on-farm tank is being built for would be based upon what it's holding.
Okay. Another quick question they had, lady sent in, was does it have to be an open tank? And I think she was referring specifically to the one that is here, do they have to be open tanks, or do you know, or they can be closed off?
They can have both options. They are able to be open, NRCS standards allow for it. I think there are options where they can be closed.
Okay. Is the DAF material slow release or quick release when it comes to nutrient density?
That I do not know. I'm not an agronomist by any means, so I do not know that.
I think from my own experience, I do think its manure is much more fast. I think this is quicker, but either way. Are there requirements for how DAF material is incorporated? Are there requirements to how if it's spray, application or injection? Are there any specific requirements to this particular material to how it is incorporated into the soil?
That I do not know.
And then last one I had was, actually I think you've already answered the other ones. Oh yeah, are there any, Lady wants to know if there's any studies when it comes to the health. Are you aware of any studies that come to the health of the health impacts to like any ladies that understand that she was worried with mosquitoes and the flies that were dropping in? Do we know of any of the studies that can be pointed to that shows that it's still safe?
I'm not aware of any.
Okay. Thank you for taking our questions that we would normally pass on to our state of Maryland. I think we are still trying to do that to get them to be a part of this, to get those questions in. I know you're going to have a lot of folks that reach out to you, but I also want to say thank you for DPI. 30 years ago I was hanging out at DPI events, and you've always been a good, Bill was fantastic, you've always been a good group, and I appreciate your leadership.
Sure.
Thank you, Mr. Hastings. We have any more questions?
Yeah, go ahead.
Mr. McCain.
Okay, well, go to ask yours. Mine's more of a
Yeah,
closing comment.
this is really just to kind of maybe put ground to a rumor I've heard that because of the regulation of this product in Delaware and Virginia, the lower shore, this county and to some extent Dorchester, has become kind of a focal point for it flowing in. I'm talking about the DAF now. I think a lot of it's processed in linkwood. And so we're getting essentially product from these other states because they have regulations that are somewhat different. That's kind of one part of it, and the other is how are the other counties that you know of handling this tank situation? The story we heard a year or so ago was that the tank here in Hebron was kind of a byproduct of them being turned down in Dorchester County. And how's that been resolved?
So to speak, each of the states have different regulations and laws and regulations on the material and the use itself. To your point of it coming from Linkwood, that I'm not, we don't have a chicken processing plant in Linkwood, so not aware of that. Where it's specifically coming from, again, I can't necessarily talk to that. Each of our states do, and I say our because we represent Delmarva, each of the 3 states do have different rules and regulations on how it's used, but the states do, it is used in other states as well too. It's just a matter of what the regulations are and how it's used.
Do you have any idea if they're significantly different or?
They're just, it's regulated under different protocols and how they're done, both mainly at the state level, because these are all state rules. I don't know the ins and outs of them. Again, I think from some of my brief conversations with MDE at least, and with MDA, I think that they are happy to answer specific questions. So maybe again, like you've done now, if there are a specific list of questions to send to them, that they would be able to look at their rules and regulations would be helpful in knowing. As for other counties, again, I think as with anything with planning and zoning, all counties have their own specific planning and zoning rules and regulations. And that's, really it's based upon what those county rules and regulations are. I'm not aware of any additional tanks at this point that are being looked to be permitted. That's not to say there aren't. DPI is not where they would come and tell us. But, again, each of the counties, based upon their own planning and zoning rules, would determine whether or not the tank would be able to be used.
Has there been any change in Dorchester?
Not that I'm aware of.
Worcester County does have a tank, and it's in the ground.
Mr. McCain, this has been going on a long time. Mr. McCain.
Just more of a closing comment. Just want to thank you for being with us. I know we've had a lot of questions for you, but that's good. You know, we're trying to gather
Yeah.
as much information as we can, so
Sure.
you've been very helpful, and thank you very much for being here.
Sure.
Thank you, Ms.
President,
Porter. It would be nice to have the regulatory agencies here, but I think you answered some of the questions, and then we still have some that are unanswered, and maybe we'll get those answered. But thank you for being here.
Sure.
Mr. President, can I just make one quick comment? I did reach out to the Maryland Department of Environment as well as the Maryland Department of Ag to attend this work session today. They were not able to have a representative attend, but they did say that they were open to questions, so we can definitely forward them any questions that council has.
Be nice to see them in person.
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay, I know some council members are dying for lunch right now, but we have Mr.
Thanks, Alan.
We have Tony from the airport. Mr. Rudy said that he can do his in 5 minutes, so.
I'll be very brief. I'm hungry as well. First of all, appreciate the passing the resolution for our airport improvement program funding for the taxiway reconstruction. Just want to give you a very quick background of the funding for this project and its background. The project was bid last year. It was for the entire taxiway. We reduced the scope of that basically because we didn't have all the funding in place for that. So a portion of it was completed earlier in the year. This is phase 2 with the CARES Act money coming on this year, and with our AIP money being 100%, where typically it's only a 90% share, and then the state's 5%, and there's a local share of 5%. We decided it's good timing to go ahead and just get this project completed with that funding, and then using the additional CARES funding that we're still waiting on the FAA to get guidance on that. So I just wanted to bring that to your attention. We are looking at $1.9 million from the CARES funding that will help.
And that's in addition to the 18 million?
No. That's part of the 18. It's
That
coming.
is
It's
part of
coming
the
out of the
18
18 million,
okay.
and we had that on our spreadsheet. Actually, I think we only had, I think we had 1.8.
Yeah.
1.8 million.
Okay.
However, CARES, the way the CARES is written, there cannot be any overruns. So we gave it a little buffer, hoping that we won't be, we won't go up to the 1.9, but it'll give us, if there is an overrun, we'll be able to capture it within that 1.9 million. So I'm hoping to hear from the FAA within the next couple of weeks that they are approving this project. Obviously, if it was approved and we're getting funding through the AIP portion of it, we've met all the criteria, all the design criteria, the bidding, prevailing wage, all the federal requirements. It's just a matter of them getting the internal guidance to sign off on it. So I'm hoping maybe the next council meeting we'll have a grant offer in hand for that, and we can get this project going. We are in discussions with the contractor right now as to how to proceed, because the AIP portion, which was that was intended, we had to break the project out for dollar values and portions of the construction. So the AIP, which is a lesser amount, was scheduled for milling and filling of pavement, where the more expensive portion was for full depth reconstruction to reconfigure some of the angles on the taxiways to bring them up to standards. Unfortunately, that was planned on being constructed first, but we're talking with the contractor. Maybe they could rearrange their schedule to try to get the portion we have funding for now. Unfortunately, we have to keep those funding streams separate for different line items in the construction project. So just want to give you a briefing that'll be coming here, and I'm hoping by the next council meeting we can
Okay.
have that.
Do you have any questions for Mr. Rudy? Mr. Cannon?
You've got an assistant that's coming in, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so it would be good, I think, if we had a chance to just meet him at some point in time. It's not
Sure.
required, but I think it'd be very exciting for the council to meet him and see.
Sure.
you know, what plans
we could
you all
introduce
have.
them at the next meeting.
Right, and you've also, the master plan finally has been approved by the FAA, is that correct?
Yes, that's actually been signed off, and we'll be getting copies of that. And
Which has really been a huge holdup in 90%, I think, of the airport's projects, right?
It has been, yes.
The more recent success that we've had on the tax, the parts tax in Annapolis, where it took us maybe 4 or 5 years to try to get this tax eliminated.
Yes.
I don't know the correct term for it.
Yeah,
How do you see that benefiting us now?
well, there's a little catch to my understanding. There was a sunset clause that was put in when that was passed by the state. So I believe the term was for 5 years. If that wasn't in there, that may have been a little better incentive for people to actually, get their aircraft work done here in the state. Because of that, it's going to be kind of tough, I guess, to measure that success. And but I know Calvin Peacock in the Airport Commission, he was looking on seeing if there's a way we can kind of track that either within the state or locally.
So that's really a true initiative, I think, that we're going to have to
Yeah.
focus on as a county with our Eastern Shore delegation and Annapolis as a whole. Because I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
You're not going to create that change if they was afraid that after 5 years it's going to go away.
Exactly.
Okay. Thanks for letting us know. I didn't know that. Thanks.
Hey, thank you. Any more questions for Mr. Rudy?
I have a general question. The AIP part of this, I think, is a separate grant from the one we approved earlier. Correct? I mean,
The one in this meeting?
Yeah, the one that we did.
That was the AIP grant.
So it's the same grant as you're talking about now?
No, the other portion, the 1.9 million is coming out of the 18 million CARES fund.
Right, but in the material you turned in, it talks about an AIP grant, and it gives a list of what was approved by the FAA for something like 1.4 million.
I'm not sure if I follow you.
So I'm just trying to figure out, are we going to have another AIP grant to
No, no,
approve?
no.
So the one we approved this morning
Yeah.
is that, okay.
That's correct.
And the only, and that was one thing, just to clear that up. The second was, these are getting to be pretty substantial amounts of money you may need to do some interfund borrowing. And just look at that, because when you come back in for the CARES Act part, which we'll have to approve, you could do that at the same time and just cover everything at one time. So, just a suggestion, yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Taylor. Any more questions? I need a motion to adjourn for lunch.
So moved.
Be back in 30 minutes.